One night, while driving, we met an old man who wanted a ride. We kindly gave him a lift, but little did we know that he was no longer human. Once, my friend and I decided to go on a long road trip by car. We leisurely departed from Beijing, stopped occasionally to admire the scenery, rested by the roadside when tired, and eventually arrived in Jiangxi province as our destination. When we were driving along National Highway 320 near Pingxiang City in Jiangxi province, something quite strange happened. It was already dusk, and we planned to drive through the night to save time, then sleep at a hotel and enjoy our destination the next day. Since we were not familiar with the local roads, the navigation signal was unstable at that time, and the lighting was poor at night, so our speed was relatively slow. After driving for some time, we saw an elderly man not far ahead, carrying a fish scale bag and accompanied by a child. The old man kept waving to us, indicating that he wanted a ride. Our car had 7 seats, and there were only 3 of us, so it should be no problem to give a ride to this grandfather and grandson. Therefore, we kindly stopped the car in front of the old man. The old man told us that their village was just beside the national highway, only about 10 kilometers away. They asked if we could take them for a while. Of course, we agreed without hesitation. So the old man and the child got on the car. The old man's movements were very agile, which seemed somewhat inconsistent with his age. I guessed he might be a rural person who often worked in the fields, so it was stronger than a city dwellers who lived comfortably. The child also said very little, just following the old man and quickly getting into the car. After the door closed, we continued to drive forward. At this time, I began to carefully look at the old man. He wore a gray duckbill cap, had a white beard around his mouth, stooped back, and had a dark complexion. As I looked at him, he also looked at the 3 of us and started to chat with us, asking where we were from. We told him that we were tourists from Beijing. After hearing this news, I saw excitement shining in his eyes, which made me feel a bit uncomfortable. He kept muttering about how good Beijing was. In fact, we didn't have any sense of superiority, but Beijing did enjoy various national conveniences. Along the way, we were constantly praised and complimented by others, so we could only smile and respond. In other words, while chatting, the old man took out a bucket of marinated dried fish from his fish scale bag and offered it to us. The fish were small and soaked in orange red chili sauce. Before opening the lid, a strong smell of fishy and spicy filled our nostrils. Faced with this food, we all felt hesitant. After all, food from strangers always made people worry about hygiene issues, and that fish didn't look delicious. However, the old man kept persuading us to try it. When he saw us shaking our heads to refuse, his face immediately became depressed. My friend sitting next to me is a shy person. He was afraid of hurting the old man's feelings, so he gritted his teeth and took a fish. Eating it, his face turned red and he kept asking for water. The old man laughed and said, "You Beijingers can't handle spicy food. You're not as good as Jiangxi people." Hearing this, I couldn't help but join in. I also grabbed a fish and put it directly into my mouth. After the fish went down, I felt a burning sensation from my throat all the way to my stomach. Then it surged up to my forehead, coughing. I said, "Your fish is really spicy." However, the old man didn't seem to care and asked us, "Why isn't the driver eating? Are you Beijingers hoarding food?" Following the principle of sharing hardships, I fed half a fish to our driver friend and secretly threw the other half in the toilet paper. A few kilometers later, I asked the old man, "Are we almost there?" The old man replied, "Almost." At this time, I noticed that my friend started to yawn, and I also felt a bit sleepy. It seems that driving at night is indeed dangerous. We should choose to drive during the day next time. Not long after, the old man said, "We're here." We stopped by the roadside and I got out to escort the old man and his child. A gust of wind blew by, making me slightly more alert, but looking around, it didn't seem like we were in a village. The old man didn't say goodbye and walked with his child into the woods. I thought to myself, what an odd old man. Back in the car, we continued driving for a while until our driver friend couldn't hold on any longer. He said he didn't know why he was particularly sleepy and needed to stop and rest by the roadside. Hearing his words, I also felt exhausted. Helplessly, we had no choice but to park on the emergency lane, turn on the warning lights and rest before continuing our journey. In a half-awake state, I seemed to hear a loud noise outside the car, but no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't open my eyes to see what happened. Finally, It was our driver friend who shouted loudly that woke us up from our dreams. "Wake up quickly! Hurry! Something happened." When I heard him say that, I jumped up suddenly. However, when I looked around, we were still in the car and everything was fine. Only the sunlight outside the window had become a bit brighter, indicating that we had slept for a long time. "Outside! Quickly come out and help!" My friend continued to shout. It was only then that we realized he was outside the car. Getting out of the car, we saw another vehicle overturn not far away in the woods behind us. Its front end was stuck in a tree hole. We rushed over and knelt down on the ground. We saw that the people inside were covered in blood and their condition was unknown. We tried several times, but the car door wouldn't open, so we dared not move. In those days, cell phone signals were particularly weak, especially in the wilderness. With no other choice, we quickly got into the car and drove forward, hoping to find a place with a phone to call for help as soon as possible. After driving about 4 or 5 kilometers, we saw a village and rushed in to call for help, taking the people back to the scene of the incident. We waited for the police and firefighters to arrive before rescuing the people inside. There were 3 men inside, one of whom was covered in blood, but his features were still clear. However, when we saw him, we gasped in shock. Wasn't this the old man who had hitched a ride with us? But now, on his deathly gray face, without his beard and cap, how could he be an old man? He was clearly a man in his 40s. I quickly went to find the police and told them about him hitchhiking with us and that there was a child involved. The police said they didn't see a child and asked us to stay in the city for a few days in case anything happened and they needed to find us. At that moment, an older police officer came over and chatted with us for a while. In the end, he only said that this matter was a bit strange and asked us to cooperate. His words were very sincere. We had no choice but to agree. After staying for a few days, we received a call from the police station asking us to come in. It was still the older police officers who received us. He asked us to describe the appearance of the child again. We told him truthfully, and it took out a photo and asked if it was the child we saw. When we looked at it, we confirmed that it was indeed the child and asked if it had been found. The police officers said that it had been found and that all 3 members of the family had been found. All 3. I told you earlier, don't be scared. What did you say? The family of 3 was found in the woods. They had been dead for half a month. They were killed by the group who hitched a ride with you. So the child we saw was, I can only tell you that the car accident was caused by the driver having a sudden heart attack and dying. As for the child you saw, don't think too much about it.